This happened about 5 years back, although it still comes up in conversation because we genuinely just don't know what happened or was about to happen to us. I'm posting this story to hear your thoughts and ideas. It was around 7 p.m. in November, so it was past dark in Metro Detroit. I was driving and my fiance was riding passenger. We were exiting a pretty populated highway when we turned onto one of the mile roads near the city's shopping mall and outlet centers. Being in close proximity to the mall, it was strange that the boulevard was that empty at that time of night. So we're driving on this deserted westbound side of the boulevard when we noticed there was a stopped, yet running, vehicle in the middle lane. Again, it was dark aside from the streetlights that line the road every 80 yards or so. But the brake lights were obviously lit, and we were coming up quick. My fiance and I were talking in the car at the time when we both kind of stopped to verbally question what we were both seeing. It was strange behavior, especially since the speed limit is 45 or 50 miles per hour on this road. You don't want to be stopped, especially this close to people exiting the highway. So we slowed down since we're cautious drivers. We approached and passed the vehicle in the far left lane, as it was in the middle, and when we were about a car length in front of it, the driver gunned it and started speeding to catch up to us. We never left our left-hand lane, but at this point, I was braking because, again, this behavior was so off, and we noticed their driving was erratic. Braking was almost instinctual, as much as it probably wasn't safe to do so. Continuing to drive down this mile road, still no traffic we can see in either direction. We noticed the driver was swerving the car between the middle lane and the left lane, as if trying to intentionally sideswipe us. Instant red flag. It wasn't like the driver was intoxicated or texting and just doing a poor job at staying in their own lane. This was a driver in control of their swerving and coming dangerously close to hitting the side of my Jeep, going 45 miles per hour. Bad vibes. Before we knew it, we were blinded by a spotlight coming from the driver's window into my car via the passenger side window. I have 20 tints on my Jeep windows, which usually help control the brightness of the sun most mornings and evenings. And even with the tints, this spotlight stunned us, and we couldn't see anything but white. I don't have time to check my mirrors before slamming on my brakes. I'm not even sure I would have been able to see in my mirrors after being blinded. I remember my fiance screaming, "What the f-?" We opened our eyes and the driver was yards ahead of us now, speeding to get away. I had my fiance dial 911 immediately. I don't take bullshit, so I started racing down the road to catch up to him for a license plate number. In Michigan, we have Michigan left turn lanes, which I'll take a second to explain. Basically, you can't turn left from these lanes. In order to make a left at the intersection you're at, you'll have to either make a right turn and make a U-turn, or go straight through the intersection and make a U-turn, then make a right turn to get you to the left like you had hoped to. I could see this vehicle up ahead of us turning into one of the entrances to the mall parking lot, which is a huge roundabout. The roundabout speed limit is about 20 miles per hour, with frequent stop signs and intersections. My fiance connected with dispatch on the phone as I was trying desperately to catch up to this vehicle. They were blowing every red light and stop sign in sight, though. Dispatch recommended we didn't follow, but I kind of did anyway, because I was really upset and committed to grabbing their plate number, but from a safe distance and at a safe speed. No way I was going to tail this person when we didn't know if they had a weapon or something. Long story short, this driver knew we were following them, and they were speeding through the roundabout, cutting drivers off and blowing intersections when we eventually lost sight of them. At this point, the police said the cops in the area were already on their way looking for the vehicle we described, and that we should just leave it to them. We weren't going to jeopardize our safety and the safety of other drivers just because I was pissed. So we stopped our chase, but still crossed an intersection into another shopping center across the street, one opposite from where we saw the driver enter. We figured we could prowl instead of chase, just in case we saw them again. We never did see that car, though. Never found out who the driver was or what his motive was, or even if the cops found him. We knew it was a male driver because we saw him through the driver's side window before he blinded us. White male, dark ball cap. He drove a dark sedan, looked like a newish Ford Fusion at the time. It was a close run-in, and I'm not sure what would have happened if he had successfully crashed into us on that deserted mile road, or if his spotlight had successfully veered my car off of the road. We don't think this was a case of road rage, since we didn't do anything to provoke him. To the dude who scared the crap out of us and took away our eyesight while driving a moving vehicle. Middle finger emoji to you, bud. When I was in my early 20s, I went to Walmart for a grocery haul. I walk in the store, get me some McDonald's before I go shopping because we all know you can't go grocery shopping hungry. I quickly smash my 2 McChickens, then go about shopping. Well, 15 or so minutes later, I got what was coming to me. Some intolerable stomach pains and a bathroom trip a-brewin'. So I run to the bathroom, nearly in a panic. I close the stall and brace for the storm that's about to happen. There's just one other person in the bathroom with me, and they're in the stall to my left, the handicap stall. By the shoes that I can see under the barrier, I'm thinking it's a little girl. So as I'm going about my business, looking down at my phone to pass the time, all of a sudden I see something in the upper corner of my eye. It was a phone on the top of the stall door in front of me, not the handicap stall. But the camera's facing me, and there was obviously a hand holding the phone. There was somebody in the bathroom recording me taking a shit. The whole thing went by so quickly, but I was in an incredibly vulnerable position, as you can imagine, and all I could think to do is scream, "What the f*** are you doing?" The person immediately runs off, and I hear the little girl in the stall beside me jump up off the toilet and run away. By the time I could wipe and run out of the bathrooms myself, obviously whoever was recording was long gone. So now I'm completely mortified, and I ask for one of the managers and tell them what happened. They were not so concerned that someone was straight up recording me in the bathroom with my pants down and legs wide open for God knows how long. I tell them to please look at the cameras because I feel completely violated and I'm concerned for my safety. Within 10 minutes, they return and say that a little girl ran out of the bathroom shortly before me, and that it was probably her just joking around getting pictures of people in the restroom. I argued with them and said that I know it wasn't the little girl because she was in the stall next to me, and while she ran out after I yelled as well, it was a few seconds after the person who had been holding a phone to my face. They were adamant that that's who it was though, because no one else could be seen on camera before the girl or after me. I never escalated it any further with the Walmart management. Looking back though, I was gaslit into thinking it was just some dumb kid. But the next few days when I actually thought about it, that wasn't possible. I came to the conclusion that there's some nasty poop-peeping pervert hiding in the supply closet or something in the bathrooms, taking videos of vulnerable women taking shits. I've been convinced all of these years that I'm probably out there on some website on the dark web, somewhere for people who have these types of fetishes. Not long before that particular incident, I was followed by a car out of Walmart and nearly made it to my house before I realized. I drove around the neighborhood to make sure it was actually following me, and they definitely were. I only got rid of them because I drove to a gas station and screamed, "This person is following me. Someone please call the police." Once they heard what I was doing, they drove off. I never got a look at him or her, unfortunately, and I didn't file a police report either. I can't help but wonder if this was the same person that took the video of me in the bathroom. Needless to say, I haven't been back to Walmart since. Doesn't seem like anything good happens there anyway. This happened all the way back in 1988, when I was in the 7th grade. Our school system required that all students take a semester of woodshop and a semester of home economics every year of middle school. Semesters were 5 months long. In my part of Canada at that time, middle school was grades 7 and 8. Our woodshop teacher was a man in his mid-50s named Mr. P. Mr. P had quite the reputation. Older girls warned younger girls every year. If you were a female, you never wanted to be stuck alone in class with him. If you got detention, you begged a classmate to either intentionally get in trouble so you'd have to serve detention together, or begged to have them stay late to work on their project after school. Anything to avoid being alone with him. As the older girl said, he would start to say hugely inappropriate and graphically sexual things, and then move on to touching. starting with the girl's hands, arms, then her hair, shoulders, back, and then, well, worse. Much, much worse. It was an open secret. The principal and school board had to have known, but things weren't like they are now. People didn't listen when kids complained, and the school board was heavily invested in covering for bad and abusive teachers. We were sort of left having to deal with these things on our own, with no support and no actual adult help. Wendy was a girl in my class. We weren't close friends by any means, and she hung out with a different group than I did, but we got on well enough. Reasonably good acquaintances, I guess. One day, Wendy got in trouble for talking in class when Mr. P was trying to go over safety info for a new piece of equipment, and was promptly given detention. Her friends were all on the same sports team, which was leaving the school right at dismissal to go play another school's team, so they couldn't stay with her. Wendy had been given detention by Mr. P once before, once again for talking when she shouldn't have been, so she was petrified at the prospect of being stuck alone after school with him once more, and she went from classmate to classmate for the rest of the day, begging for anyone's help. Everyone had some different reason as to why they couldn't stay, so she was getting absolutely desperate and was nearly in tears. Finally, she got to me. I wasn't on a sports team. I was a clumsy, bookish, shy, nerdy kid who avoided sports whenever and wherever possible. I also didn't have anything going on after school that day, so I agreed. I said that I would stay and work on the crappy birdhouse project that we'd been assigned. Wendy got to Mr. P's classroom before I did. I had stopped at my locker and the restroom before heading on to the shop room. When I got there, Mr. P was already sitting right beside Wendy, and it looked like he was about to stroke her hair. When he saw me, he yanked his hand away as if he'd touched something hot. Then he stood up, putting space between himself and her. He glared at me and demanded to know why I was there. I stammered out the lie that I wanted to work on my birdhouse assignment. In reality, though, I was further ahead in my project than most of the other kids were. So instead of grabbing my nearly finished birdhouse from the rack, I grabbed Wendy's and began working on it for her. For the entire 45-minute detention, Mr. P sat behind his own desk, silently yet obviously seething and glaring at me. When Wendy's detention was over, we took off nearly at a run. She thanked me profusely, and that was that. As far as I know, Mr. P never faced any real consequences for being a PDF file pervert. I'm 100% certain that he ran the same sick game on many other girls over the time that he was an instructor, especially given that at that time, he was the longest tenured employee at our school. It makes me sick to know that he pretty much got to do whatever he wanted to, and nobody was there to hold him accountable. We were all just kids, but the fact that no adult ever stepped in, either officially or unofficially, to put this man in check depresses me like little else in this world. It's an absolute fact that those in charge allowed for the abuse of generations of young girls. I personally believe that there's a particular patch of fire and brimstone awaiting all of those that allowed something like this on their watch. In my mind, if anyone knew and didn't do anything, then they're all complicit in the acts of this predator. So last Sunday evening, I was putting together a new dresser I had bought in the rear bedroom of my apartment. The bedroom door was open, and I could see down the main hallway into the living room where my fiancé was standing with our 2 kids while they were playing. I think it was around 7:30 p.m. just for context. A knock comes on the door. My 6-year-old son runs to it and opens it, even though he knows he's not supposed to. This is something we're working on. He was coming down from his birthday party excitement and just went for it, probably thinking that someone else was stopping by for his party, even though it was long over. There's a woman at the door. I recognize her as an upstairs neighbor from the other side of the building. She says she needs help and walks straight into our apartment. She began frantically talking nonsense, saying she was locked out of the building that she's in, saying that she can get into her apartment, but couldn't get in the building, then in the same breath saying she can't get into her apartment. She appears extremely disoriented and keeps saying she's just so exhausted or really tired over and over again. She appears to be out of it. not balancing very well. Speech pattern is sloppy. Appears to be in some sort of a light daze. To me, immediately, it appeared that she was having some sort of episode. But as soon as I stepped foot near her, I could tell something fishy was going on. She continued to talk in circles and not make any sense, saying her parents were going to be so worried if she didn't check in with them. This woman lives alone. She begins repeatedly asking us to call numbers for her. Her phone is in her hand, on the video record setting, but I can see that it's not recording. I see her hand rolling something in her pocket over and over. From where I'm standing, it appears to be a screwdriver. As she's telling my fiancé numbers to dial, she can't come up with them. Every phone number she gave us to call for help was multiple digits short. They weren't phone numbers. Then when I said that that's not enough numbers to make a phone number, she would switch to a different phone number and stop halfway through saying it. This happened no less than 8 times, and finally, I'd had enough. She kept saying her phone wasn't working, so I had to let her try to use my phone, but she ended up just standing there holding it. Not using it, just holding onto it continuously, talking her nonsense. I'm thoroughly uncomfortable at this point, and very upset that this woman has entered my apartment without invitation, and is acting this way around my kids. I tell my fiancé to take the kids to the back of the house, and try to coax this woman out by saying, "Let's go check on your apartment. Come on, I'll go with you. We'll see if it's open." I try to lead her out of my apartment, but she says she's too exhausted and needs to sit down. Then she proceeds to pop a squat on my living room couch. I'm not at all thrilled with this. In fact, I'm livid, but I keep my cool and realize I'm dealing with crazy here. My fiancé flanks her from the back, so she can't get any further into the apartment, or anywhere near the kids again. I continue trying to coax her out. After about 5 minutes of trying to convince her to leave the apartment and come with me to check hers out, she finally walks over ever so slowly out of our basement apartment. I'm a stairway ahead of this woman already, telling her to follow me up to hers. On the way to her apartment, she attempts to get into 2 other apartments that are not hers. I tell her each time, that's not where you live. When I arrive at her door, it's wide open. She hasn't caught up with me yet, so I take a quick glance inside the door. The couch cushions are thrown everywhere, and the living room is looking torn up and turned upside down. She arrives behind me and tries again to get into another neighbor's apartment across the hall. I tell her again that that apartment isn't hers, but here, yours is wide open. Finally, I get her to go inside of her apartment. When she does, she apologizes to me saying, "I'm sorry this is how we had to meet. I'm just so tired." I say that it's okay, and I quickly head back downstairs to my apartment. I have such an uneasy feeling that I decide to call the cops and let them know some woman who I've never spoken to before showed up at my door asking for help and acting disoriented. They say they'll send someone over to check on her. About an hour later, police arrive and knock on her door. They get no answer, so they leave. Well, 4:15 a.m. rolls around. My 6-year-old son and 1-year-old daughter have been asleep through the night, as have myself and my fiancé. I get up to use the bathroom. As I'm using it, I hear the lightest of knocks on our apartment door. It's so light, I actually second-guessed if I heard anything at all. I call out to my fiancé to ask her if she heard anything. She says she didn't hear a thing. So we both head towards the living room together, just to see if we hear anything present itself. No sooner do we step foot in the living room that we begin to hear scratching at our front door. The unmistakable sound of someone clawing at your door isn't something I wish for anyone to hear in the middle of the night. It is truly horrifying. I tell my fiancé to go be with the kids, make sure they're okay. I open the door to find the woman from earlier, standing at the top of the flight of stairs in front of my apartment, just looking down and staring at the door. That is terrifying. So I told her, no fucking way are we doing this shit again. I proceeded to call her a crazy bitch and tell her to get the fuck away from my apartment, to stay away from me and my family. I also told her I'm calling the cops right now. No sooner does that escape my mouth, she scurries away out of sight, presumably back to her apartment, and I do as promised. I immediately call the cops. They show up and ask her all of the mental health questions, which she apparently answered adequately enough. So they said there's nothing they can do. this woman was very clearly in some sort of state, and now she's harassing me and my family and disturbing our peace and the safety of my kids. They told her to stay away from us, and I haven't seen her in a week since then. But I can't help but continue to think about it. Ever since the first time she entered the apartment acting crazy, I've had this pit in my stomach that I can't ignore, and this uneasy feeling that whatever this is, it's not over. I still don't know what's going on, and it makes me feel really weird. I don't know what to make of it. Another neighbor of ours, one that we happen to be cool with, said that her doorknob was being jiggled by someone in the middle of the night too. Well, putting two and two together, we know that it was this crazy woman. I'm not gonna lie, this whole thing has got me sick. The complex sent her a warning that this behavior is unacceptable, but I really don't know what to do or how to feel about it. My first instinct is to respond with anger and physically defend myself and my family. If you guys have any idea, input is both welcomed and appreciated.